I'll record this as a balancing equations tutorial thing and put it up on YouTube. Okay, so what I said is as I'm doing my tally, I noticed that I've got that one oxygen by itself. So I'm going to leave that for last, and that's a way that I can kind of like sweep the floor and tidy up any loose ends. So over here I've got one carbon, I've got two hydrogen, and you have to be careful because you have oxygen in two different locations, and that's three oxygens. First thing I know here is that whatever coefficient is going to end up in front of water has to be an even number. Why? Yeah, because I'm never going to have an odd number of oxygens on that side because it's coming in as O2. So whatever prefix is going to end up in, or whatever coefficient is going to end up in front of water has to be even. Okay, and I typically start off by trying the carbons and the hydrogens. So let's start with carbon. Well, if I do that, then I have 2 of that, and then I have 4, and I have 5. Okay, still not balanced. Well, what if I do hydrogen? Well, if I put a 3 in front of water, it'd be balanced, but I can't do that because what did we just say? It's got to be even. So the next thing I could go to that would be even would be 6. Well, that gives me 12 hydrogen. That gives me 4, 6. 4 and 6 is 10. Okay. Could I balance my hydrogen on this side? Could I get it to 12? Yeah, I could put a 2 here. Well, that takes me to 12, but that also takes my carbon to 4. Could I get twice the amount of carbon on the reactant or on the product side? Sure. I could make that a 4, which gives me 4. That gives me 8 plus 6 gives me 14. Everything but oxygen is balanced. Is there an easy way to get 14 oxygens? Yep. Okay. So it's kind of this dance back and forth. Does that make sense? You get better at it. You get much faster and much better at it. Okay, let's do, which was the other one you guys wanted to see? 5, okay. Okay, this is number 8 on the practice sheet. So we have aluminum sulfate. And I'm going to write all these. Aluminum sulfate, SO4, 2 minus, so this is Al2, SO4, 3 times. And sodium hydrogen carbonate. So we have Na1 plus. Hydrogen carbonate ion is HCO3, 1 minus. So we have NaHCO3. I'm just listing all of my compounds to start. Aluminum hydroxide, so that's Al3 plus OH 1 minus, AlOH 3 times, CO2, obviously carbon dioxide, and I've got pure sodium. Okay, so let's write the actual equation. Copy, paste, well, and the trickiness on this one comes in because you can't leave the ion. Oh, wait a second. They did it again. This is, I'm so sorry. I didn't make this sheet. Hold on. Okay, sorry. That's not a terrible typo. That's supposed to be sodium sulfate. It's not pure sodium. So sodium sulfate, Na2SO4. Okay. And let's get these guys all into... Okay, let me expand this enough that it's more readable. Okay, so in this one, there is one ion that we can go ahead and leave as an ion, and there's one we can't. Our sulfate ion stays intact. So we can say aluminum, the sulfate ion, sodium, but that hydrogen carbonate ion breaks apart and gives us CO2 and a hydroxide ion. So hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen all have to be accounted for separately. So this is boogery because you got a lot of stuff. Okay, do our preliminary tally. We got 2, we got 1. We got 3, we got 1. We got 1, we got 2. We got 1, we got 3. Gesundheit. We got 1, we got 1, and we've got 3. And over here we have 3 plus 2, we have 5, or another one of those situations. It's real important, if you're doing one like this, if you're keeping that sulfate ion together, do not include the oxygen that's in sulfate with your general oxygen total, because you're accounting for it already in the sulfate ion. So you have to be careful about that. Okay, where would we start this? Well, I mean, looking right at the top of the list, I know that I've got to double my aluminum hydroxide, because I'm starting with 2 aluminums in formula over there. So I could try that. That gives me a 2. That gives me 6 oxygens plus 2 oxygens is 8 oxygens. It gives me 6 hydrogens. And, okay. Now my SO4, I have 3 SO4s on my reactant side. So to get 3 SO4s over here, I'd have to do that. Well, that gives me 6 sodiums, 3 of that. Okay. You see how you can get into an upward death spiral? We're not there yet, but it can happen. Okay. Well, if I want to try to balance my sodium, which I'm going to have to do, obviously, I could put a 6 here. That gives me 6 sodiums. 6 hydrogens, that looks promising. 6 carbons, and 3 times 6, 18 oxygens. Okay, this is not insurmountable. We're going to get someplace. Okay, so for carbons, to balance carbon, well, if I put a 6 here, that gives me 6 carbons, and what's my oxygen total now? 6 plus 12. Oh, hey, look at that. That's looking promising. That's looking promising. Oh, we're done. Okay. Now, here's something to be real careful about. Remember how some of you got dinged points because you didn't reduce formulas? Like if you have tin 2, or, tin 2, oxygen 2. Okay. When you have a balanced equation, it should also be reduced. Now this one works because, of course, this is a 1 if there's nothing there. We don't typically write 1s. And that's a 3. This can't be reduced. But you can get into a position, especially if you've been spiraling up and up and up and up, where you end up with 2 of this, 4 of this, 6 of that, and 8 of that. Well, guess what? That can be reduced. So always double check yourself when you think you're done to see if what you're working on can be reduced. Questions, comments? It's not that hard, it's just tedious and it takes a lot of practice. I have 2 more practice sheets that are exactly like this, with about 12 problems each. I'll do these as 10 points each homework grade. You just have to show me that you finished them. I want to see your work on all of them. Do you want me to do one more of these and then I'll copy one of the other ones? What do you mean? Yeah. Yes?
How would I show my work? Because I kind of do these for trial and error. I just show you what
You would show me this.
Okay.
Just adding numbers, scratching numbers, writing your formula equation, and your little tally marks.
All right. Can you check my paper to see if this is...
Well, not right this instant, but sure.
Yeah, when I
Okay, other questions on this? Okay, I'm going to copy the other practice sheet, and we'll keep working.